know about you, but we've definitely been having a lot. And I think many people have already noticed that they can be very tiring, all these Zoom calls. And it's actually been called Zoom fatigue. And here you can kind of see, what does Zoom fatigue mean? Well, the term is being used to describe tiredness, anxiety, or worry resulting from all of these video calls. So we thought we would actually dive into the science behind it a bit and dig down, why are Zoom calls so particularly tiring for us? So first of all, it's really because they are different in how our attention works. So for instance, if I would be in the same space with you right now, you would look at me, hopefully, and listen to me, but everything else would kind of fade into the background. But that doesn't really work this way in Zoom calls, especially not when you have the gallery view and you can see all these different faces. So even now, you might be partially focusing on my face and partially on the slide, and we call this continuous partial attention, which is very tiring, but we can't really stop it. Our brain just kind of automatically does this. The other issue is that if you're just watching this two-dimensional video, it's not really attention grabbing. So even though you might, really feel like all of your attention is going to me and you're really listening, you will have a shorter attention span versus, being with me in person. And also normally you'd really get this physiological arousal that keeps you alert. That sounds a little bit weird. I had the same thing yesterday when I said that, but it's really just kind of what our brain does when there's another human being in the same space that, is hopefully saying something relevant and basically helping you to stay alert. So you're missing out on that, but you're still hopefully trying to maintain your concentration, but that's now much harder and leading to much more fatigue. The other thing that's, I think, also quite worrisome about all of these Zoom calls is that it turns out that we are listening to speakers differently. So on Zoom calls or other video calls, we tend to listen we tend to focus much more on people's likability versus the kind of the quality of their arguments. So when you're in a Zoom call and you're trying to make a decision as a group, of course, it's not very smart to just go by, well, whoever do I like most, I kind of will agree with them versus who's really making the best arguments. And some other studies have already shown that when we go by these heuristic cues, such as likability, that can really hurt minorities, women in, kind of getting the credits for what they are contributing to the discussion. So I wanted to share it because I think it's really helpful to be aware of. As planned, and they're a little bit out of sync, this immediately also leads to a lot of frustration. So we know from different studies that if there's just a 1 second delay, which is actually, it's not that crazy long, but people are getting more frustrated. We also know that if there's about 1.2 seconds delay, which was used in a different study, that people actually consider the other person on the other end to be less attentive and less friendly. So you're also starting to judge the other person when there's this technical asynchrony. Now, the other thing that causes us to, either get annoyed or fatigued by all of these Zoom calls is that we're missing out on something. So normally when we're interacting with another human being and they're speaking to us or they're moving their body parts, we have what we call our mirror neuron system that is mimicking what they're doing. We think this plays a really important role in observational learning, especially, of course, in humans, but also in something, what it is, in empathy. But the idea is that when we mimic what somebody else is doing, for instance, their facial expressions, we will kind of experience the same emotions and thereby feel more empathy. And all of this, of course, is very difficult when there's really low resolution of the video, when there's a lag going on. And even if those two things would be perfect, humans just tend to kind of undervalue or not find the other person's emotions as relevant as they normally are because you're just simply not in the same space. And this makes video calls much less rewarding because this mimicry also creates more of a bond. And we see this as well with eye contact. So in these video calls, we can't directly look at each other, right? If you're looking into your camera, you will not be able to see the eyes of the other person. And this lack of eye contact is normally something, really rewarding and creates this intimacy. And now we're missing that with all these Zoom calls. So the timing, the rhythm, the synchrony of the conversations, if any of that is just slightly off, it's going to create a very exhausting experience.